The fall of the Roman Empire in 476 gave the start to the medieval ages. Or did it? Well, actually, while the city of Rome fell in that time, the Roman Empire survived in the east, in the form of what we call today the Byzantines. In fact, they didn't call themselves that way, but instead were called just Romans, even by the rivals. The Byzantines, or Romans, thrived through commerce on the Mediterranean Sea and by great military achievements, with its forces, led by General Belisarius, reconquering some of the former and western Roman lands in Italy, Spain, and Africa. But no empire lasts forever. Their vast territories gave them a lot of enemies, including the Hungarians and Serbians in the Balkans, the merchant republics of Genoa and Venice in Italy, and later in the east, one of the most decisive strikes against the Romans came from the Seljuks in 1071 in the Battle of Manzikert. The decisive Seljuk victory resulted in the emperor himself being captured and allowed them to conquer Byzantine lands in Anatolia, causing the immigration of Turkic people to Asia Minor. That loss brought the economic crisis and a civil war to the Byzantines, making them lose their grip on the Balkans, eventually leading to the Serbian independence and more territorial losses. For the next centuries, the Byzantines would face lots of internal conflicts and civil wars. Then the Fourth Crusade happened, and you may be asking, how does a crusade affect a Christian empire? After the Great Schism, the Roman Catholic Church was split, and the empire became Orthodox. In 1202, the Catholic Crusaders wanted to raid Egypt and reconquer Jerusalem, but for that, they needed boats. The Venetians offered them boats, but in exchange, they would like to take a little stop at Constantinople. Their goal was simple: weaken their commercial rival, get funds for the crusade by sacking the city, and then put a new dynasty more aligned to the west into power. The Pope Innocent III said no, but the Crusaders, primarily Venetians and Franks, still pillaged, burned, fucked up the city, and then the emperor fled. Remember the civil wars? Well, this proposal was originally made by Alexis IV, an exiled Roman prince. A new dynasty was put into power, creating the Latin Empire, and then the exiled nobility founded the Empire of
Nicaea,
with its capital being the city of
Nicaea,
in Anatolia. About 5 decades later, the
Nicaea,
empire made a swift attack in Constantinople while the Latin army was away, and quickly reconquered the city, reestablishing the Byzantine Empire. But despite this victory, the future times wouldn't be easy on them. Now their attention shifted to the west again. A new enemy would rise in the east, the Ottomans. They were distinguishable warriors. They focused on the quality of their soldiers and were led by innovative military leaders that were far more successful than the Byzantine mercenaries. The Romans would then face a painful streak of defeats against them, losing control not only in Anatolia but also in today's Greece. Hiring mercenaries wouldn't be enough to defeat them, and even the Christian population started seeing the Ottomans as better rulers than the Palaiologo dynasty. The Christian kingdoms of Europe were not happy with that. Even with this schism, it's better to have an Orthodox Christian state controlling the trade routes than a Muslim empire. But while the Ottomans were expanding into the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire was fighting the Hussite Wars. The Polish were busy on the Balkans. The Spanish were fighting their own war against the Muslims in the Reconquista, and then the French and English were just destroying each other. The French intervened and tried to help the Romans, but were defeated. The city was saved only after the Timurids, a Mongolian kingdom, declared their own war on the Ottoman Empire and lifted the siege. The West now was united under one goal: putting a halt to the Muslim advance in Eastern Europe, and then joined forces in the Crusade of Varna. The Papal States, Poland, Croatia, Lithuania, Hungary, the Byzantines, and Venice, joined forces and fought the Ottomans together. But it was an absolute disaster. Vladislav III, the king of Poland and Hungary who was commanding the army, disappeared during the battle, most likely killed in action. A half of the Crusader army was either killed or captured, while their enemy only faced small losses. The union of Poland and Hungary was over. Hungary got into a civil war, and the outcome of the battle was so bad that the Europeans gave up on stopping the Ottomans for the next decades. Now the Romans were on their own, with the exception of course of Genoa and Venice, that would still send a few soldiers to help them stand against the Ottomans because of their commercial importance. But the end was already inevitable. The Sultan Mehmed II was determined to achieve what his father couldn't: defeat the Roman Empire once and for all. At the age of 21, he declared war on their historical rival and laid siege on the city of Constantinople again. A year before, the Hungarian inventor named Orban offered his service to the Greeks, but was rejected due to the high costs of hiring him. Ironically enough, he would be hired by the Ottomans. He helped the Ottomans by building 70 bombard cannons that were used by Mehmed to destroy the city's so-called undestroyable walls. The Ottoman navy was already superior to the Byzantine, but still, their entrance to the Golden Horn was blocked by the Great Chain of the Golden Horn, a 750 meters chain that was lifted to stop ships from bombarding the city. Then the Sultan Mehmed II had a brilliant idea. If I can't take the ships by water, I will just take them by land. The Ottomans then carried about 7 ships by using wooden poles across the land. Once the ships got into the Golden Horn, the Byzantines were shocked. The Ottomans had about 80,000 soldiers, 70 cannons, and 126 ships. The Romans, on the other side, had about 8,000 soldiers, of which about 3,000 were foreign soldiers, like from Genoa and Venice. They only had 15 cannons and 26 ships. The city that was already far less glorious than it once was not only suffering from the heavy bombing from land, but also from the sea. The morale was low and the Roman defeat was inevitable. Still, the last emperor, Constantine XI, refused to leave and chose to die with his men in battle. Even if his body was never found, the most accepted theory is that he disguised himself as a common warrior to avoid being captured as a trophy by the Ottomans, and died by his men's side fighting on the walls. The last Roman emperor had died with the Roman Empire. The siege lasted for only 53 days. The decaying city was finally defeated. Mehmed named himself Caesar, as he had conquered the last bastion of Rome, even claiming that the Ottoman Empire would be the successor of Rome, but other countries wouldn't take it seriously. Many would then reclaim the title of successor of Rome, with the Austrian historians even inventing the name Byzantine after Constantinople's fall, as an attempt to rewrite history and gain legitimacy for the Holy Roman Empire as the true successor of Rome after the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476. Even if it was already expected, the fall of Constantinople was so impactful in history that it marked the end of the medieval age and started the modern era. Now with the Ottomans controlling the strait, the trade in the Mediterranean Sea would change forever. In order to avoid the Ottoman taxes, the Europeans had to find other routes to Asia. The Portuguese and Spanish would explore the seas to circumnavigate Africa and eventually find the American continent, totally changing the balance of power in the Western world. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and if you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you have suggestions for the next video, please leave them in the comments.